You ever have one of those days where a tiny little envelope changes your whole life? That's exactly how this story started for me. I walked out one morning, coffee in hand, birds chirping, just enjoying a quiet start to my suburban American life. Then I saw it. A white envelope taped my front door, HOA letterhead on top. My stomach sank before I even opened it. And sure enough, it was a fine. $50. $50 because my trash can had been left out overnight. Now, I'm not a slob. I hadn't left garbage all over the lawn. The can was sitting neatly by the curb, lid shut. It was trash pickup day, and honestly, I had come home late from work and figured I'd pull it in the next morning. But apparently, that was enough to trigger the wrath of the HOA gods. I remember muttering, "You've got to be kidding me." When I told my wife, she just raised her eyebrows. $50? For a can? She said. Yeah, and it says here it'll be $50 every single day until I correct the violation. She frowned. So, if you're out of town or sick or just forget one night, they'll keep stacking it. I finished her thought. At first, I laughed it off. I thought it was ridiculous, but maybe it was just a one-time thing. Until the fines kept coming. Day after day, they added another $50 to my account. Before long, I owed them hundreds of dollars for what was basically a plastic bin sitting quietly on the curb. It felt less like a neighborhood rule and more like extortion. I talked to a couple of my neighbors about it, and they all had their own horror stories. One guy said he got fined for a garden gnome. Another lady said her mailbox color was not approved, and she had to repaint it. Everyone grumbled, but nobody fought back. That's when I realized, maybe I needed to be the one to push back. But how do you fight an HOA that thrives on rules and penalties? That's when an idea, no, a spark, hit me. And I'll admit, it was a little batty. It started when I was up late one night, doom-scrolling on my phone. My fines had already crossed over $600, and the HOA president, Karen Mitchell, yeah, of course her name was Karen, had sent me a final warning notice. I was furious, but also determined not to cave. While scrolling, I stumbled on a random article about wildlife sanctuaries, and one section caught my eye: bat houses. Apparently, in many states, it's perfectly legal and even encouraged to build little bat shelters to help control mosquitoes. Homeowners can put them up, and not even HOAs can object because it's technically an environmental benefit. That's when the thought hit me like lightning. If they're going to nickel and dime me over a trash can, maybe I could give them something way more annoying, but completely legal. The next day I went to the hardware store, but lumber, brackets, dark stain, and even downloaded some official bat house building plans from a conservation website. I wanted this thing to be 100% by the book. When my neighbor Mike saw me unloading the wood, he laughed. "Building a shed?" "Nope," I said with a grin. "Building a bat hotel." He blinked. "Like, for bats?" "Exactly." At first he thought I was joking, but when I explained it, his face lit up. "Dude, that's brilliant. They can't touch it." "Exactly," I said. I spent the weekend sawing, hammering, staining, and mounting the bat house on a tall post in my backyard. By Sunday evening, it was done. A big, dark, perfectly designed bat sanctuary, positioned high and facing the right direction so the little guys would love it. When Karen drove by in her golf cart, clipboard in hand, she stopped and stared. "What is that?" she demanded. I smiled sweetly. "It's a bat house. Perfectly legal. Want me to send you the state wildlife website?" Her lips tightened into a thin line. "We'll see about that." "Yeah," I said under my breath. "We'll see." The first couple of nights, nothing happened. The bat house stood empty. Karen kept circling the neighborhood, probably hoping she could find some technicality to shut me down. But then it happened. I was sitting on my back porch around dusk, sipping a beer, when I saw a flutter, then another, then 5 more, sleek, fast, darting shadows circling the bat house. And before I knew it, they had gone inside. The sanctuary had its first residents. I felt this wave of triumph. Not only had I built something useful, but now it was actually working. And the best part? Karen couldn't do a single thing about it. A few nights later, I decided to film them with my phone. The bats swooped and darted through the night sky, catching mosquitoes. The footage looked incredible, almost like fireworks, but made of living shadows. I uploaded a clip to our neighborhood Facebook group with the caption, "The Bat Sanctuary is officially open. Say goodbye to mosquitoes." The reaction was explosive. Half the neighbors cheered me on, saying it was genius and hilarious. The other half, mostly Karen's inner circle, freaked out. "Bats are dangerous," one lady posted. "They carry rabies," another warned. But then someone else commented, "Better bats than HOA fines." That one got over 100 likes. Karen was livid. She started sending me more violation notices, claiming the bat house was unsightly. I replied with screenshots from state law. She had no legal ground. But she wasn't giving up. And neither was I. Because what happened next, that's when things really took off. One night, my neighbor Mike brought over some motion-activated cameras. He said, "Let's film them properly." We set them up around my yard, angled toward the bat house. That night, we caught the most incredible footage. Dozens of bats swooping in synchronized patterns, wings glowing silver in the moonlight. It was mesmerizing. I edited the clips together and added some music, posted it online, and within a week, it went viral. Hundreds of thousands of views. People commented things like, "This is the most American HOA revenge I've ever seen. That's 1, Karen 0. Even the local news picked it up. They did a short segment calling me the Batman of Willow Creek. Suddenly, I wasn't just the guy with fines. I was the neighborhood hero. But fame has a cost. Karen doubled down. She called an emergency HOA board meeting claiming my bat house was a threat to community health. I showed up with a printout from the wildlife department and crowd of neighbors backing me up. The tension in that room was thick. Karen's voice shook with anger. "This is outrageous. He's turning our community into a circus." And from the back, someone yelled, "At least the bats don't charge us $50 a day." The whole room erupted in laughter. Karen's face went red as a tomato. But what she did next shocked me completely. A week later, I got served. Karen had hired a lawyer. The HOA was officially suing me, claiming the bat house violated aesthetic standards. It felt surreal. All this over a trash can and some bats? But Karen was serious, and the HOA was using everyone's dues to fund the lawsuit. That's when another idea came up. A group of neighbors decided to call a special vote to remove Karen as president. The stage was set for the final showdown. The community center was packed. Neighbors filled every chair, buzzing with tension. On one side, Karen and her loyalists. On the other, me, Mike, and dozens of fed-up homeowners. Karen gave a fiery speech about community standards and protecting property values. Then I stood up, holding up a photo of the bats in flight. I said, "Do you see this? These bats eat thousands of mosquitoes every night. They don't lower property values, they raise quality of life. What lowers property values is living under fear of petty fines and power trips." The room broke into applause. Even people who had been neutral clapped. Then came the vote. Secret ballots dropped into a box. The tension was unbearable. Finally, the results were read out loud. Karen was removed as HOA president. The room erupted. Some people hugged, others cheered. Karen stormed out, red-faced and furious, muttering threats about appeals. But for the first time in years, the neighborhood felt free. That night, we all gathered on the cul-de-sac. Someone brought snacks, someone else brought a projector, and we all sat under the summer sky watching slow-motion bat footage like it was fireworks. Kids laughed, parents relaxed, and everyone agreed on one thing. This was the best revenge we could have asked for. And me? I learned something. Sometimes the smallest battles, like a trash can fine, can turn into the biggest victories. All it takes is creativity, persistence, and maybe a few bats.